What you will see in the video is the importance of clarity. So have your choice clear for yourself before you can clearly communicate it to the other. That is, and also to choose is to create. We come back to that. I will share the video.
In the previous video about attention, I described the importance of turning on your radar to see options. However, you can lose yourself in a multitude of options if you do not subsequently make choices. When I make a clear choice about where to go and I sincerely invite her to join, which I will explain in the next session, Manu has something to say yes to. When I don't make a clear choice about where to go, I am less and here even completely not meaningful. So Manu makes her own choices. At all times, I can continue our conversation if I make a genuine choice, communicate it clearly, and invite her to join in.
Yeah, making choices, it's something I have never been good at. But horses help me to regard it in a different way and to gain more insights about it. And when I learned about solution focus back in 2016, it was purely recognition, like, hey, but I know this. Horses have taught me this. And because in nature, solution focus is omnipresent. Everything in nature is to some extent solution focused, because what is not solution focused gets extinct in another way. And so also making choices is really for people. We will look at some differences between horses and people, but it's so different in how horses and people make choices. And bottom line, we make making choices often so difficult, but in the core, it's so simple. It's not easy, but it's so simple. And that's the core essence of what horses taught me. Everything in communication, in leadership, the core is so simple, which makes it so damn difficult. But if you can go back to the essence, it really helps. And at least have I become very good at making choices? No, but at least I'm more aware. That's something like that. So I give you some background information on some aspects of natural horse behavior that link to the importance to becoming better at making choices. And that is the importance of direction and the importance of having your attention 360 degrees. And then there's an interactive sessions with 2 videos I want to show you, and an introduction of the Connective Clarity model that I described in my book. 2 years ago, I wrote a book about my findings about the relation between solution focus and natural horse behavior. We'll show my book as soon as I stop screen sharing. It's about Connective Clarity is the title. I can immediately do it now. So Connective Clarity, when horses invite you to take up authentic solution-focused leadership. It's available via Amazon, also in Dutch, if you want to. Some slides here. There are some general differences regarding defining direction amongst horses and people. Horses always go somewhere, even when they flee. When they are attacked by a predator, for example, the first few meters, they are running away from the predator, of course. But very soon, they switch again to where do we want to go? Because if you flee with your attention backwards to what you're fleeing from, you might get into a very dangerous situation, because then you might get stuck at a place where you can't move on anymore. So it's very important that even in very stressful situations, you keep on looking for the safe directions. Horses do that automatically. people can often describe more easily what they don't want than what they do want. What do you want? Not this, not that. Yeah, but what do you want? Because nature doesn't understand no. If I ask you right now not to think about a pink rabbit, the first thing that pops up your mind is a pink rabbit. For example, if you take, in winter, when you take a horse out of the meadow and there is a lot of grass outside of the meadow, but not in the meadow, and a horse starts eating grass immediately when you got out of the meadow, I see a lot of people asking the horse, telling the horse what not to do. Don't eat grass. But then you focus your attention so much on eat grass, because nature doesn't understand no, that you get a conflict right away without even realizing it. Even the smallest child walks away with a horse much more easily if, let's go over there. So what do you want? And again, that's very solution focused. What is the direction? What is the preferred future? So horses really, yeah, what you do not want can be helpful as a context. It can help you choose, come to your definite choice. But in taking action, you really need to be able to describe exactly what do you want. For horses, everything is information you can subsequently do something with. There is no right or wrong. And for people, we often contemplate a lot of the choices, because we must make not only a choice, but we must make the right choice. And because if it's not right, it's wrong. So that might give a lot of stress. And horses, if you go left, and that doesn't, they really go left. And if left doesn't seem to be the right option, then okay, then that's information. They don't say, oh, damn, I should have got no. Then in that here and now, they take another decision. So they are very much inherent and do what is needed with what is needed. And every choice has consequences. But you don't have to think of all the consequences beforehand. You cannot think of all the scenarios. So be very, they're always in a very alert state. That's why we'll also dwell a little bit further on the importance of having your attention 360 degrees. But there is no right and wrong in nature. There is what it is and what you make of it. And horses choose and act accordingly. A choice, an action. People often drive, I call it the roundabout of indecisiveness. Is this really, would I do it? Will I really be able to do it? Won't you become mad, etc.? And I use that metaphor because if you keep on driving on the roundabout, you run out of fuel, getting nowhere. Because I haven't seen any fuel station in the middle of a roundabout before. So it's like, and horses make a choice. And if this doesn't seem the right choice, then you do something else. But get off the roundabout of indecisiveness. That is really something that I learned. In order to be able to do so, well, we often want to make choices before we have an overview of options. We don't make choices out of fear of what might go wrong. But in order to actually make choices, you need to have an overview of the options. For horses, it's really a necessary state of mind, and you will see it. You can see it through their ears. Their ears are constantly pointed at where they have their attention, and you will see if you next time you come across a horse, have a look at its ears. These ears will not be focused for too long on one certain spot, because if you focus on something in front of you, you might be attacked by something behind you. So horses have taught me the difference between focus and having your attention 360 degrees with accents in attention. Of course, when there is something, and we do that, we all do that when we are driving a car. Then that's when we do it. We can do it. We can, our eyes are in front of our heads, like it's the case with all predators. So we only see the 180 degrees before us, in front of us. I mean. Horses have an almost 360 view, so for them it's easier to have their attention 360 degrees, but we can do so. For example, when we're driving a car, we know exactly what's going on, if all's well, what's going on around us, and that's really important. So activate your radar, see the options on the, and then deliberately choose out of, okay, what's the best thing to do, and not out of what to avoid for now. So it's a video on the most important condition to be able to make choices, and that is having your attention 360 degrees around. So about 1.5 minutes.
Have a look at her ears. Viarda has her attention 360 degrees, and she's not at ease. Her attention is drawn to something behind her. Still, her ears show you that her radar keeps on working. She stays in contact with her surroundings. Her attention shifts. She now pays more attention to something in front of her. Still, her radar visibly keeps on scanning 360 degrees. How about people? Unlike horses, we do not have ears that are fit to continuously scan the surroundings. However, we do have a radar, an innate, natural state of alertness that we could become more aware of. What difference would it make if you had your attention 360 degrees more often, with extra accents of attention? What other difference would it make? And what else? Suppose you have become good at consciously making the choice between focus and having your attention 360 degrees around you. What difference would that make? What other difference would that make? And what else? Every time you answer the solution-focused and what else question, you are cranking your radar. Enjoy finding opportunities.
But how might this idea of the radar as a good condition of making sound choices, how might this be helpful? Are you doing it already? Or you say, okay, this might also indeed be more helpful to me. Any thoughts on that or questions on that?
Okay, so I was just thinking, how to manage this, like the horse, because I was just thinking when I focus on something, my energy and whole interest is on the focus, but doing at the same time these radar thing, I'm just checking it when I look in my room, yeah. So it needs somehow a different kind of attention, mm-hmm. Yeah, is what I experience, yeah. That and I recognize that in the first moment it's really tough for me and kind of exhausting. I recognize when I have to focus and radar at the same time. When I do it, I just tried it out, I get a little bit of headache.
Indeed.
Yeah, so it's amazing that horses are able to do this at the same time. I don't know about others here in the workshop, but for me it is like this.
Let me tell you, because that's interesting about focus and attention. In nature, animals focus far much less than we do. Focus requires a lot of energy, and energy is always only spent when needed. A predator will focus on its prey, chasing it. Otherwise, that would be really silly if you don't focus on your prey. But as soon as the prey is caught or not, they go back to their 360-degree state of mind. We focus far too often. And we could do, looking at the time, yes, going to do it. Let's do an exercise that will show it. I do it very, very briefly, but choose a point, not on your computer, but somewhere in the space where you are. choose an object or something that you will look at during the exercise, throughout the exercise. And I'm going to first ask you to focus your eyes. It's all about your eyes in this exercise. Focus your eyes on that object. You really, with focused eyes, you look at that object. And while doing so, while focusing on that object, experience what happens to your breath. What happens to potential tension in your body? And what do you see around that point you're focusing on? You keep on looking at that same object and you make your eyes soft. You look with soft eyes to that object and feel what happens to your breath and to potential tension in your body. And what do you see apart from the object or around the object you're looking at? The second but last variant is you make your eyes, well, let's say tired. You look with tired eyes to that object. What happens? What do you see? What happens to your breath? What happens to potential tension? And then you turn back to soft eyes. What happens to your breath? To potential tension? And to what else you see apart from what you're looking at. But what differences do you notice? There's no right or wrong. Everything is information. And it may be very individual. What do you notice? Yeah, Katarina?
I realized that I sort of held my breath when I focused. I stopped breathing and I had more tension and it grew less and less. It was really interesting. Yes.
Yeah, something like that. And there is nothing wrong with focusing. But what if we would focus only when it's needed? There are things we have to focus on, things that need all our attention, but realize how tiring this is for your body, how much energy this costs. And in nature, that would be, we wouldn't be very good survivors if we focus so much, because it requires a lot of attention, of energy, and it gives more it takes away our energy. Katarina?
It made me think of the quote by Steve the Chaser, "What is observed grows." And it showed me a different side to this quote. Because when I hear the quote, I think, oh, I want to observe this. I want to let it grow. But this has another side as well. This is what you showed us now, I think, that this grows, but not the rest of it. So, yeah, thank you very much for pointing this out in a way.
Thank you. And horses have this, this tired state of mind is also, it costs alertness. Everything might be blurry and it undermines our ability to act. I have been observing horses living in a semi-wild state for a couple of years. But also when you look at animals, you see this softness, this soft eyes, soft but alert. They look around, they are awake. I call it awake eyes. And that is, they don't have this tension and then compensation. They are in a constant state of alertness. And to come back to what you started with, Christiana, indeed, it's for us to focus is sometimes needed, but realize when you focus. And you might use your eyes as a checkpoint. How am I looking at things? And how to get in that more alert state by very small steps. Listening to, take a moment to listen to the sounds around you, also the sounds behind you, the sounds of your own breath. Feel your clothes against your body. Look away from your screen and look for things that you haven't seen before. Just look around. So your senses can help you to open up again and get out of focus. And also while driving a car, you're doing it. You're looking there, you're having an extra accent on the direction you're going, but in the meantime, you sense, you hear, you feel, I hope not when riding a car, because then it's too late, but you are aware of what happens in your surroundings. But yes, indeed, Christiana, we sometimes have to practice it more again, but use your sentence to open up, and don't make it too big. Just look around, listen, and a few times a day, check your eyes. How am I looking at things?
Yeah, and really a big thank you. I wasn't aware of this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I did it automatically, but I never thought that when I focus that I'm not really breathing fully anymore. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that it's kind of a tension in my body. I have never recognized it. Yeah, it's really an eye and breath opener. Breath opener is perhaps the right word for it. So big thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And that is the power of working with horses. I'm always working in a very experiential way, and you cannot undo this. So you've experienced it, and this is what your body will recognize. So that is because imagine that it's coming back to making better choices. Imagine that you make choices out of focus. It's so minimalizes your palette of options because you see only one part of the world. So step one, have your attention 360 degrees. Over to direction now. So some core elements of the video I'm going to share with you now. I first let you watch it as a whole, and then I will come back to the video because the part in which I work with a horse might go a bit too fast. What you will see in the video is the importance of clarity. So have your choice clear for yourself before you can clearly communicate it to the other. That is, and also to choose is to create. We'll come back to that. I will share the video.
In the previous video about attention, I described the importance of turning on your radar to see options. However, you can lose yourself in a multitude of options if you do not subsequently make choices. When I make a clear choice about where to go, and I sincerely invite her to join, which I will explain in the next session, Manu has something to say yes to. When I don't make a clear choice about where to go, I am less and here even completely not meaningful. So Manu makes her own choices. At all times, I can continue our conversation if I make a genuine choice, communicate it clearly, and invite her to join in. You don't always choose what you find on your path. You do have a choice in how you deal with it. To choose is to create. Imagine what difference this way of looking at choosing could make. Good luck.
So I will go back to the part with the horse, and it's really making choices out of having an overview starts really with clarity, and it's also the intention, and it's about choosing, making choices, and inviting the other to join your choice. What happens? I'm inviting the horse to say yes to the choice I made. If I'm not clear, then the horse does what she wants. Her name is Manu. And imagine that we as people could be so clear as what happens here. If your message is not clear, if your choice is not clear, I needn't take it into account. That's actually what is happening here. So let's have a look again at the specific parts in which I work with a horse. So being clear in the first part is really, I'm really immersed in my message. It's not something I think of. If my choice is only in my head, then the horse cannot read it. I really have to walk my talk here, literally. I really have to radiate my choice, to from my center, walk and my choice. I really have to mean it. Otherwise, it has to be clear and I have to mean it. Otherwise, it's not taken into account. You see also my attention is 360 degrees. I'm scanning the surroundings because it's the only way in which I can really tell the horse, okay, it's safe. I'm not focusing on the horse. I am walking my decision here, my choice. And in the meantime, I'm really present, looking around. And you will notice that in the next moment when I stop being present, you will also see that I stop my radar from scanning the environment.
Manu has something to say yes to. When I don't make a clear choice about where to go, I am less and here even completely not meaningful.
And that is, I think, very interesting. And this is one of my horses who is really sensitive to direction. She's really clear. As amongst people, there are sometimes individuals have more credit and sometimes not. And one day is different from another. But here, if I'm not clear in where to go to, she just chooses for herself. If you communicate something to someone and that person doesn't live up to your expectation, you can do two things. And blame the other, start with blaming the other, or checking, hey, yeah, what can I do in order to make my message more seen? So here I see the horse's behavior gives me information about how my message has come across. And I'm not going to convince the horse. I'm not going to beg her to come back. I have to be more firm again in what I invite her to. And that's what happens in the next part.
So Manu makes her own choices. At all times, I can continue our conversation if I make a genuine choice, communicate it clearly, and invite her to join in.
So, what does this tell you about making choices before we turn to the last parts? How do you recognize this? How can it be helpful?
So for me, I think it teaches me kind of, the more clear I am, the more, also people around me or this horse, will accompany me. That's it. I remember that we worked with a horse once during a retreat, and the horse reaction was so clear. Yeah, when I wasn't clear, repeated me in my back a little bit, but I wasn't clear, and I recognized it immediately, and I think it's also a very good example of raising awareness to check how clear we are also with our friends or colleagues around us when we want to achieve something, and they don't follow. And not to be pissed off or whatever, but first check if we had been clear in telling them what we want and where we are inviting them for. And I think this is also very interesting to me, that it's not that I press someone like you did with the horse. It's an invitation, even when I'm clear. And I think this is also a difference, because it's more this co-creation and invitation, and not that I want that you come. So and this is also very interesting when you showed it in the video to me. So
it's not about pushing or I told you, yes I told you, yes I was clear, apparently you weren't. And indeed Katarina makes the links to tango. Yes, it is. It's a kind of dance. What is needed in order to not, it's not about the form. Tango is not about the form. It's about exchanging energy and inviting the other on your energy. And you ask a question, how can we find this clarity? This is what it's about. Making choices should feed also your resilience, because and it's that clarity you talked about, Christiana, is a core essence, but then connective clarity, like you also check whether your clarity, whether what you regard to be clarity has come across. And so this is for me the symbol of how I want to be in the world and what I want to guide people to, and also what horses taught me. Being very resilient, also if their choices are questioned, they don't start a reactive mode, they bounce back. They keep their attention 360 degrees. And if questioned, look at its face and listen to its music. Yeah, keep on seeing the lightness of it. And what has this little tumble clown to do with Katharina's question, how can we find this clarity? Therefore, I go back to my PowerPoint presentation, some slides. This little clown has turned into a model of connective clarity, and it's like we often feel like our choices or making choices is very much dependent on circumstances. And circumstances can be other people, how busy it is at your work. So making choices is difficult in our opinion because there are so many things to take into account. And that's when we make choices in a more reactive way. We are dependent on our context. What horses taught me that making choices, to choose is to create. By making choices out of having an overview and really feel like making choices, the choice to make is something you really, it's something you really want to do in this moment, maybe in the next moment something else. You can really create your own environment, and you can focus more on the green arrows. And how can you do this? I turned my little clown into a model of connective clarity, and let me translate it to making choices. There are 3 parts. The first thing is take time. Making choices sometimes takes time, because what is the palette of options you have to choose for? Communicating clearly to the other, make sure that to some extent, it doesn't have to be completely clear, but make sure that you can say yes to your own choice, even minimally. But so wipe out trying. I'm going to try to do, trying, what is it? I can say that right now, I'm trying really hard to get up from this chair, and tell me I'm not. Yes, I am. So trying, either you do it or you don't. So wipe out trying and find a way to have your message clear for yourself and to really be immersed, to really mean it to some extent. Maybe not 100%, but you have to say yes to your own choice. The next step is there is no right or wrong. The only thing, making a choice has consequences. Yes, but trust that you can also deal with the consequences. You cannot know beforehand what is the very best thing to do in every situation. So regard everything with the mindset, oh, interesting. This is different from what I had expected. It's different from, not it's wrong. Oh, you did it wrong. Oh, that's a choice I would never make. Instead of, come on, are you serious? Or, this leads to something different than I had expected, instead of blaming myself. And then I will show it in more detail. There are some things to take into account that horses do by nature, that humans once also did by nature, but now we have to pay more attention to that. And that is, we have to keep our attention 360 degrees. So step 1, and horses, it's a continuous, moving around. Horses continuously walk this circle. They always, as a starting point, have their attention 360 degrees. Out of that, they make a genuine choice. They have a clear direction. out of that, they don't push others towards their choice, but they powerfully invite others to say yes. For those who followed the previous session on becoming meaningful, it's about that, not how do I make the other follow me, but how can I invite the other to say yes to my message. Communicate your choice in a thorough way, not cautious, not bold or reckless. In nature, caution does not exist. No, caution is very problem-oriented. Something might go wrong, and it's. My mother was afraid of horses, so when I was a child, and they finally let me ride. When I left to go horse riding, left home to go horse riding, they didn't have fun. My mother said, "Be cautious," and it had an impact because caution feeds fear. And in nature, for example, a monkey jumping through a tree will not do that cautiously. That branch might break. I might not be able to cover that distance. They also don't do it, they don't jump recklessly. Oh, we'll see what happens. No, in nature, everything takes good care of itself. They do it, hey, welcome, Owen. They do it in a thorough way, step by step, what is the most, and that is just constantly checking. If you make a decision, make a choice, continuously check. Is this, do you understand me well? I use a lot of, prepare well, act stupid. That's one of my mottos. I prepare well, I thoroughly think about choices I make. And when in communicating them, act stupid is one of my favorites. Like, don't exaggerate it, of course, but do I hear you say that? I see you frown. Have I made it clear? Do we get it? Do I hear you, etc. So constantly check for good understanding. Horses do that amongst themselves, amongst each other. They make sure their message comes across. And I'm very fond of the eternity symbol, the line 8. Horses communicate clear messages, clear choices, and they will always make sure it comes across. Amongst people, communicating choices is often one directional. They throw choices, and I told you so, but continuously check and attune. So yeah, that is what I do, what I describe in my book. I will make sure you get all the slides, and what I do in individual coachings, webinars, and team coachings. But so to come back to the core, what can help you to indeed actually make choices. It's really having the overview first, making distinction between focus and attention 360 degrees. Have it clear for yourself first. Make sure you find reasons for yourself to say yes to your choice, and have this mindset of always go through the 3 parts of this connective clarity model. Is my attention 360 degrees? How clear is my direction? Am I powerfully inviting? Am I proceeding in thorough steps? And how am I dealing with the red arrows, the situation in a neutral, I call it an unencumbered way. Unencumbered stands for, it's a house free from mortgage. It's like making a distinction between what is my message, what is my choice, and what do I regard as emotions, interpretations, scenarios, judgments, and keep these 2 separated a bit. So yeah, that is what I wanted to share with you. So that was what I wanted to share with you.